13-year-old Capablanca wins this match against Enrico Corzo with a beautiful checkmate using rook and his bishop. So Capablanca is playing with the black pieces here, and Enrique is playing with the white pieces here. And knight to c3 is played, and after the pawn is exchanged, this is the French defense, the Rubinstein variation of the French defense on the board. So the knight captures the e4 pawn back, and bishop goes to d7, and knight jumps to f3, and bishop goes to c6 now. Bishop to d3 now. Now white can castle on the king side, and knight goes to d7, and white castles on the king side here. So the knight to f6 by Capablanca, and bishop comes to g5, pinning this knight, and this knight is attacked knight twice. It's also defended twice, but it's pinned against the queen here. Bishop to e7 here, unpinning the knight. So the knight captures the knight, and the bishop captures the knight back with a double attack on this bishop over here. So bishop drop backs to e3, and the castles on the king side. Capablanca, a pawn push to c3 by white, creating this nice little pawn structure in the center, and also allows your queen to come over here and create an attack on the h7 square over here. b6 by Capablanca, and queen goes to c2 now here. But the best move here would be to bring your queen over here to e2, but he went for doubling up to create an attack on the h7 square. So king moves away to h8 here, and knight to d2 is now played, and rook to e8 now played. So this pawn is now captured by the bishop, which actually is a mistake. Now with the pawn push to g6, the bishop here is trapped, so the bishop can capture the pawn, and the pawn captures back, and the queen comes in and captures the g6 pawn. So for that bishop, you got 3 pawns. The 3 pawns on the king side are much more valuable than the normal pawns, and sometimes it's good for you to exchange, but here it's not that great. So queen to e7, trying to counterattack, trying to defend the king, this exposed king. So f4 is now played by white. So the best move here would be to bring your knight over here and attack defend the bishop over here. So in case if the bishop captures, you can capture back with your queen over here. So this allows the queen to go to h7, and after that the queens get exchanged, and knight now goes to f3 over here. Rook comes to g8, creating an attack on the king, and rook to e1 by white, and rook to g6 by Capablanca, allowing him to develop the rooks later on in the game and to launch an attack on the white king. So bishop to d2 now, and bishop d5 is played, keeping the bishop in the center of the pawn, and also defending this pawn over here. That's also an attack on this pawn over here. So pawn is pushed to b3 now, defending this attack on that particular pawn, and it also allows you to push the pawn later on and attack the bishop over here. So rook to f8 is played, and king to h1 is played. Here the best move would be to bring your knight over here with a check and try to exchange this bishop for this particular knight, because there is a double attack on this pawn, so you will be forced to capture, otherwise you will lose this particular pawn. So c5 now, attacking the central pawn structure, and after the pawn is captured, the knight captures back, bringing the knight more into an active position, and his pawn is now pushed to c4, attacking the bishop, and the bishop drop backs to a8 now. Bishop to b4 is now played, and the best move would be to bring your bishop over here, but bishop to b4 was played, which basically pins the knight against the rook over here. So rook now goes to g8, doubling up and creating an attack on this particular pawn on g2. So here basically white Enrique mistakes it by going for the capture of this particular knight. Capablanca just ignores that and goes for the capture of this g2 pawn. The best move would be to, in that scenario, was to bring your rook over here and defend this pawn. So because your king will get pretty exposed. So the bishop now drop backs to e3 here, and bishop to h4 by Capablanca, attacking the rook, and the rook goes to d1 here. So bishop to f2 was played by Capablanca, but he could have also brought his rook over here, attack the bishop, and once the bishop move, you can bring your rook over here as well, and trying to create problems on the second rank of the white king. So now this rook comes to d7 and creates a check here, which basically was a blunder. From here on, it's Capablanca's game. Actually, the best move would be to capture this bishop over here. That was the best move in this scenario, basically. But in but he didn't go for that, and the rook came in here with a check. And once the king moves to h6, the rook goes to d5 over here, trying to cover off this particular attack of the particular influence of this bishop, because this is a bit dangerous bishop, and the king is pretty much trapped over here, which will result in a checkmate. So because of that, so the bishop is now captured by the black bishop, and knight comes to g5, trying to cover off this impact of these rooks, and this rook is also hanging, and the king can basically take it back if it wants. So the rook goes in and captures the knight, and the knight goes in and captures the rook. So the rook captures back with an attack on this rook, but this rook is spinning, you cannot capture it because it will be a check on the board. And so the rook comes to f6 with a check. The best move would be to push this pawn, create a space for the king, but he didn't do that, which allows the king to go to h5, and rook now captures this e6 pawns. And after that, the bishop captures the d5 pawn with a check, and after the capture, it's a checkmate on the board. So that's how the game entered. So the game happened when Capablanca was like a 13-year-old, but still pretty much accurate for a 13-year-old to be placed, and shows how a genius kind and dangerous kind of player Capablanca is at that particular point of time. So thanks for watching. We'll be back with more such videos.